One of my subscribers over on YouTube recommended that I make a video over Gundam, and boy, am I glad I did. Now, prior to this, I had little to no knowledge on what Gundam was or is. I just thought that the suit looked really cool, and I was like, you know what? That's something that I could get into eventually. Now, I'm going to be honest, I did put this off for a little bit, but when I got to it, me being the person I am, I decided I want to start at the very beginning of the story. So after me doing a little bit of research and figuring out where the story begins, I decided to start with Gundam Origin, Advent of the Red Comet. Now, before I continue telling you about the anime itself, I just want to say that this is one of the most beautiful, amazing, best written stories I've ever experienced in my life. I really enjoyed this. We start off in a room with a young Casval and Artesia. They're hearing their father worry over a speech that he has to address to the public. Now, we can tell that this is definitely an important speech by the way he mentions being executed and the sickening look on his face after his wife Estrella recommends that he get some rest. Now, from the get-go, we see that they obviously favor one child over another. Constantly, Artesia is comforted while Casval is just left to deal with it himself. Our first instance of this is when the father walks in the room, goes over to comfort Artesia, but he doesn't even bat an eye at Casval. Now, I really could be skipping over a few things, and I am so sorry if I am, but again, I really recommend you go watch this on your own because it's amazing. Now, here in this first episode, we learn that the father is Chairman Zeon Zoom Daikun, and he's about to give his address to declare independence from the Federation, I believe the Earth Federation. Now, don't get comfortable with Mr. Zeon Zoom Daikun because he's assassinated first episode, and I believe it's halfway through the first episode where he gets assassinated, and it's during his speech to the public, and he can't even get a single word off. It's just immediately, boom, he's gone. Now, the anime does a very good job of showing you the effects of his death. There is riots in the streets. There is chaos. It's just, he dies and the world falls apart. Now we're left with Estrella, Artesia, and Casval. Now, the rest of the family meets up with a man named Jimba Raw. He instructs his son Ramba Raw to give the wife and kids protection and take them back to his house. But before this, Jimba Raw announces to the family that he's pretty sure the killers are indeed members of the Zabi family. Now, from this first episode alone, we don't know anything about the Zabi family, but what we do know is they're obviously antagonists, enemies of the Daikun family. Now, we don't know if Jimba Raw is correct yet, if the Zabi family really did assassinate Zeon Zoom Daikun, but that's the only information we have of who possibly could have done it at this point. So now Ramba has gathered the family and gathered a couple other soldiers, and they're escorting them to the house. And on the way to the house, we see that there is absolute chaos in the streets. As they're driving down, the car gets completely surrounded by civilians. They're peering into the car, trying to see who's riding. They're trying to see if Zeon Zoom Daikun really died or if he's alive. They don't know what's going on, but it's just complete chaos. Now, when I first saw this scene, I really did think that Ramba Raw just started mowing down civilians. I really scared, but no, he's just shooting in the air, trying to get them off the car. And it does not work. Now, this is where we're introduced to our first Zabi family member, Kycilia Zabi. Now, what really made this confusing to me is that Kycilia, she pulls up and she's here to help the Daikun family get away. She runs off the civilians and yeah, she's here to help. And that really confused me because I'm thinking, well, if she's a part of the family that just assassinated the Daikun father, wouldn't she be the one to try to get the rest of them? So at this point, I really don't know who assassinated the father. But Kycilia goes back to the rest of the Zabi family. And as soon as she gets back, she's met with hatred, as they saw her action of helping them get away as letting the orphaned children get away. That's what one of the Zabi family members says himself. So my understanding of this is that the Zabi family is trying to orphan the children and claim the 2 kids as their own. Now, this bum, Sosuro, decides to take his anger out on Kycilia by smacking her across the face. And he clearly states that it was his plan to make the Daikun's death look like a Federation assassination. So yes, Mr. Jimbaral was correct. It was the Daikuns, or not the Daikuns, oh gosh, I messed up. It was the Zabi family that is responsible for Zeonzun Daikun's death. And so to save a little bit of time, we're just going to go ahead and skip right to Zeonzun Daikun's funeral. Now, during the funeral, we get a peek at one of Casval's future acquaintances, Garma Zabi. And during the funeral drive, Sosuro's car explodes in another assassination attempt. And yes, that's 2 attempts in the first episode. We are still on episode 1. Now, this man Dozel, being an absolute tank, somehow just survives this with no life-threatening injuries. Now, Jimbaral is just absolutely losing it. He's screaming that the zombies killed their own family member to make it look like the Raw family did it, which at this point is he really crazy for thinking this? Like, at this point, we don't know who to trust, and I could see both sides doing something very similar to get the heat off of their own back. Now, Artesia starts crying about her cat being alone, and I really don't know about you guys, but Artesia, she really, really gets on my nerves for like the first 7 episodes, because the only thing she does is cry. And I understand that she's supposed to be a little kid and, all these things, but she's just crying and crying and crying. And I don't know, it's just really annoying. So now, with Jimbaral being plotted to look like a traitor to the Daikun family, pretty much everyone wants him gone. And with this knowledge, the Zabi family plan to offer Rambaral, Jimbaral's son, a way out of the Raw family and keep a target off of his back. So we're going to skip a little bit further. We cut to see Ramba in disguise heading down to the Eden Club, which is kind of like landmark to me in the series. They revisit the Eden Club a few times during the anime, and it always feels like a home almost. And we get our first look at Haman, who is his partner, but she often feels like more than just a partner, but who knows, we'll find out. Now, Ramba, he asks her a favor. He wants her to help him smuggle his father and the rest of the Daikun family down to Earth. And yes, for the beginning of this episode, I thought we were already on Earth, but it turns out we are not on Earth, we are on a space colony. So we skip a little bit further down, and we're nearing the end of the episode. Now, Kycilia struts up to Jimbaral's house, and she asks to speak with Casval, which at first was kind of confusing. Why do you want to speak to the son? Why not Astraya, the mother, or anything like that? But hey, we don't know why. But what was more surprising to me is that Casval agrees. He states that he holds no fear for those who murdered his father. He's showing that he is strong and doesn't need anyone to hold his hand. And we see Casval, he was not bluffing, he was not lying, he was serious. Now, at first, Kycilia she's looking like, I got really good. I'm like, are you sure you're part of the Zabi family or the Epstein family? Like, what do we got going on here, Kycilia? What you want? But we see that Kycilia she tells Casval to take his mother and sister and go back to their own home, and that there would be no retaliation. Basically telling them they can get back home safely if they just leave Mr. Rawl. Casval states that even if they let his family leave without harm, he can never forgive those who murdered his father. And then Kycelia attempts to restrain him, slapping on the cuffs and demanding that he admits he's afraid of her. But Casval, being the absolute dog he is, orders her to take them off, standing his ground and saying that no one can put handcuffs on Casval Daikun.
Hidori じゃないこと忘れ